if your website is old and if it's slow, if it doesn't have trust factors, you're losing clients for sure.
40% of customers will wait no more than 3 seconds before abandoning a site.
You have to do your best to make that site as fast as possible. How you interact with people. How do you communicate with them? Can I fill out a form on your website? Is your phone number easily listable? Can I find it? Can I click on it when I'm on my phone? Marketing is picking you over somebody else, so you have to stand out. Do things differently to stand out and showcase that you're the best. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Frustrated by Your Marketing podcast, episode number 14. I'm your host, Jim D'Amico, and I am joined by my co-host, Madison McQuistion. And today we're going to talk about websites. We've talked about it a bunch on the podcast, but in particular, we're going to talk about, are you losing customers because of your website and how important first impression of your website is, and a couple of other metrics that we follow here at Skyline Studio and that you should be following on your website as well. So welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, super excited to talk about this topic.
So we talked about, I just mentioned first impressions, and that's a big part of websites. There's a lot of ways you can make a first impression with your website or make a bad first impression with your website. And we're going to go over some of the pitfalls that you can have and how to avoid those and how important those areas are for your website. So it can be anything from the content itself. Is it new? Is it accurate? Do you have an old blog up on your website that you haven't updated in 4 years and it's still being listed on your homepage and it says, April of 2019? That is a negative first impression. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to take that blog down, but maybe don't show the date. You don't want people to think that you're not active. It could be the colors. It could be the logo. Anything about your brand that looks old-fashioned or out of date. Maybe you've updated your logo or maybe you've updated your staff and it hasn't been updated on the website. Anytime people see that, it's a sign that you're not keeping up with things, and that's never good. And just in general, design change too, like the design aesthetics change. So, do you need a fresh coat of paint? Maybe the bones of the site are good, but it just looks old because you're using really dark colors and, it doesn't match your current brand, or you're using really, really bright white colors. And, we've talked about this before that, dark mode and darker design aesthetics are coming into fashion. So maybe you need to go that direction.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyways, these are just things to think about. And then we're going to go over, the reasons why that's important. So, why this is important, Madison, if you were searching for, I don't know what you'd be shopping for these days, but if you're shopping for something and you go to a website and they have an old blog and they have, old staff members, or they have, really, really old design that looks like it's from, 10, 15 years ago, it's going to affect how you feel about that site. It's going to affect how you feel.
Oh, 100%. I think especially since I'm a website designer, I judge websites probably way harder than I should be. And it can definitely impact, what I do with a brand, or let's say if I am shopping. Like, I think it builds website trust if you have a nice, aesthetically pleasing website that works really well. It has great responsiveness. Like, there's a whole umbrella of things that I look for that make me trust a website and make me trust a brand. And I think actually one of the most interesting statistics I found when I was researching for this podcast was that 38.5% of web designers believe that outdated design is a top reason why visitors leave a website, which does not surprise me whatsoever. And that number is pretty high, and there's a reason why it's high. It's because especially people now, there are so many scams out there. So when you're searching for a website, you want to see that it has the brand's paying attention to what their website looks like.
Absolutely. And it can be the most mundane type of thing that you're shopping for. So just this week, we don't have sewers in Wolcott where I live. So we have septic, and someone has to come and pump it. And our guy retired to Florida, and he gave me the name of 2 companies, and I searched both of their websites. They were actually both pretty good. But that's the type of business that would notoriously have very lousy, out-of-date websites. They're not as driven by that. They were both pretty good. Ultimately, in their reviews, I checked their reviews, I checked their websites. And ultimately, I picked it for what one site didn't have. So one of the sites looked a little bit more corporate. It did like bigger businesses and stuff, and the other one looked a little bit more hometown. And but they were both modern enough. I mean, they were not going to win any design awards for sure, but that was how I chose between the two. He gave me two to pick from, and that's how I picked. So you can I decided, and it's not like I spent hours doing this. I made the decision in 10 minutes, maybe less.
Should have slid your business card in there.
Right, yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
hey.
I don't have business cards anymore. I mean, I think I do, but I don't know where they are. Nobody wants business cards these days. But anyways.
That's true. Yep.
I made it. I trusted one over the other. I made a trust decision. And it wasn't that I didn't trust the other one, but they seemed bigger than I needed them to be. And I'm not even sure why that made me have that reaction. But I guess I wanted, the guy I had before was an amazingly local guy. And, we used to chat with him. I don't know if we'll chat with this current company, but I was kind of looking for that. And that's why I picked. And everybody's looking for different things. Somebody might have seen those two websites and made the complete opposite decision. The other company, one company looked bigger. For all I know, they both have the exact same offering, and it was just how they presented on the website. And, again, I had them both vouched for, so it didn't matter really who I picked, but I did go through the effort to pick. From what I remember, and again, I did this quickly, neither of them had headshots on the website. They both did talk about being local. But those are big.
I was about to ask that, actually, if they had like product images. I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to have product images, but for a website like that. But you can have like service pictures, I guess, which.
Right. And so we actually have a company, the septic company. They're not in our zone. Otherwise, I would certainly use them. And usually you just show trucks for septic companies. And they're big in more, we're not rural, but there are parts of Connecticut that are more rural and not on sewers. And I'm sure there are tons of places around the country that have that as well. I wish we didn't have it. It's annoying, pain in the ass, but we have it. But again, it's a trust thing. So when you're hiring a plumber, when you're hiring an electrician, when you're hiring a septic company or a painter, any service company that's coming, a power washer, whatever, it's coming to you, you want to trust them, right? Yes. I don't know if you've had any repairs in your apartment that you've had to deal with on your own, but
Yep.
I'll ask you this question. So if you had two sites that were very similar, they both look modern, and one had pictures of the owners, they looked smiling, and one didn't, would you go for the one with the pictures of the owners? I assume the answer is yes.
Oh, probably. Definitely. I think that's just another thing that builds trust right there. I mean, another statistic that I have is 85% of shoppers say that product information and pictures are important to them when deciding which brand or retailer to buy from.
Okay.
So I definitely, and that's a high number. Honestly, that's like a lot higher than I was thinking it would be. But for me, yeah, 100%. Because I had to have a plumber come a couple of months ago, and I was looking between multiple websites, and it's just part of that trust that you have to build, even though. Keeping up with your website is harder and things like that. That's like one of the things I think you must do as a brand.
Yeah. And so, like you said, product pictures and service pictures are big. You don't necessarily need to show the exact thing. You can show your truck. You can show, in action photos, or just headshots are great. That's part of your service, right? If you're a 3-person plumbing business or 1-person plumbing business, those people that are going to show up at your house are part of your service. So showing that builds that trust. They look happy, hopefully. That's a big part of trust. Maybe showing some pipes, or maybe showing somebody, with their head under a sink or in a boiler or something like that too. I guess boilers are not plumbing. Boiler would be HVAC. But anyways, showing somebody doing something would show that trust. And then a big part of this that I think, especially service area businesses are leery to do, but I think are really important, is your pricing. So, plumbers are notorious for being expensive, and same with electricians and a lot of these service businesses. And if you tell people what you're going to charge ahead of time, you might be more expensive than everybody else, but you're the only one showing it, and they'll be like, I can afford that. I can do that. And now they don't have to worry about what it's going to cost later. And that's really important too, because again, it's a first impression. Can I afford this? I don't know. And then you might just pick on the photo that you like better, or the design you like better. So put that information up there. Tell them what you're going to do. Tell them what to expect. Tell them what to expect in the way of price, in the way of, how we usually book 2 weeks out. We can do 24-hour service for emergencies. Those are trust signals too, because now I'm not scared that I'm going to get, a bill I can't afford. And that's really nice.
That was the exact issue that I had when I had the plumber come, actually. They ended up, looking at everything and they were like, oh, this is your quote. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
cool.
And they can be expensive.
Should have had some kind of pricing type thing on your website, because it does help. I mean, there are a lot of people, one, they come out here and check, but there are a lot of people too where it's you're kind of just wasting somebody's time. I mean, both ways, honestly, you're wasting time if you don't have a price on the website and then they come here and look at stuff and then you're like, oh, I can't afford that. And it's
right. And it doesn't need to be everything. It could just be a benchmark. Our hourly rate is this. If I've got an assistant, it's this other price. Materials are obviously, you're not going to list all the materials for pipes and stuff, but even just to get a benchmark that, okay, they're $1,000 an hour. That's not the plumber for me. Or they're $20 an hour. Probably also not the plumber for you, because you probably want somebody who charges a little bit more than that. Sometimes too cheap is bad and a turnoff as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend, if there's a way to at least allude to what your pricing is going to be, that's really, really valuable. And another big part of this is the communication. So the plumber we've picked, we've had a bunch of plumbers since we've lived in this house. We're with a bigger plumbing company now. They were actually here today, and they show up in one day. We have our water heaters making loud noises that we don't like. We have bad water in Wolcott as well. So our water heater probably went. I don't know what happened, because I was in here getting ready to record this podcast, but probably it's going to be expensive. But we kind of know what their pricing is. The way they do their service charges, it's all set in advance, and it's very, very professional. And that's why we like them, because we know what to expect. Do we pay a little bit more? Maybe, but we don't have to wait a really, really long time. But yes, that's also important, is how you interact with people. So how do you communicate with them? Can I fill out a form on your website? Can I fill out a quote, a more detailed quote form? Can I chat, do it some kind of chat bot, or direct chat? Is your phone number easily listable? These are all ways you can lose a client.
And clickable. That's the other thing.
Listable. Can I find it? Can I click on it when I'm on my phone? Most people are looking for these types of things on their phone. And then the obvious, we've talked about this a million times, is it mobile friendly? Because if you've got a site that is not, you might as well not have a website if you're in a service area business or a local service business at this point, because 90+% of your traffic is going to be coming from the phone. And, I happen to look for these two on my computer because I'm there all day, but I'm going to guess that most of their service, or most of their future clients come from the phone. So you've got to have that.
Yeah. Yep. And we also talked about too, we have on this list, awards, local trust signals, and also testimonials. I think testimonials is a huge thing to have on a website. Because you can go to, Google and find reviews easily, but I think it's also a very important thing to have on that homepage. And that's what we do for a lot of our clients that have testimonials. We'll stick a section on the homepage that has the testimonials on there. And that's a huge thing, I think, too, is being able to show that, you have those.
Oh, absolutely. So you have to have trust. And there are many ways to show that. A lot of them are sort of built in. So am I comfortable here? Does it look like this is a legit business? And then there are the very real ones, like, I won this award, I'm in the Better Business Bureau. Copy and paste those reviews, or there are widgets you can use a WordPress where you can bring them right in from Facebook and Google and so on. Show them off. You worked hard to get them there. And if I see a bunch of 5-star reviews, I will trust it. And again, I looked at the reviews on Google. Both of these sites didn't have them on their website, but I went and looked. And I think, one was 4.5 stars and one was 5 stars. And the 5-star one also had less reviews. So I gave them kind of, the other guy the benefit of the doubt. I think he had, triple the amount of reviews. When you get up in reviews, you're going to get a bad one here or there. That's real life, but
definitely. Yeah.
It wasn't, if I saw 2 stars on one of them, I would have run away. If you have the 5-star, if you worked for that, if you're good to your customers, bring that in, show that, showcase that, because that's, as we're mentally, I don't know what's going on in our brains, but as we're mentally making this decision, that's one of the things that's popping in there as we're making it.
Well, and with awards too, I mean, with a lot of our clients, we'll put that in the footer and put like the little awards badges, which is super nice, I feel like, to have on websites.
Right. And there are awards for specific industries. So we work with the med spa, and there are awards for like, certain products that they use that they've won. And that's great, because now there's that trust. Like, oh, this brand, they're in the top 3% for, this injectables for this brand. And that's, again, trust. So any trust that you have gotten, your local chamber, if you want a prestigious award for speaking or whatever it is, bring it in. If you're an electrician and you're a master electrician versus a, whatever the one below that is, I don't know, show that, talk about that. Those are, how many years you've been in business. This really shouldn't be a trust factor, but in a way it is. It's, you're likely not going to be in business for 20 years if you're bad at what you do. Skyline's going to be 20 years in about a month. So I think that means...
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. Congrats.
So I think that means we know what we're doing. But, there are plenty of businesses that have been around for 20 years and are bad, but they're less so. So that's a big trust factor too. So showcase that. In it, serving, marketing clients for 20 years or whatever, we're gonna write something better than that. But showcase that. And that's a trust factor. And then getting back to that septic example, know your target audience. So for all I know, the company that for whatever reason, got turned off of because they had too much listed, maybe that's only 3% of their business, those big corporate jobs. Maybe that's where they want their business to go, but segregate that a little bit. Put, a lot of when like we built a website for a landscape company, and we had, sort of separate sections for the different things you could do. So maybe say like residential and corporate, and that way maybe if it wasn't as big as it took over their homepage, I wouldn't have been as turned off. And again, I don't know why I was turned off by it, but for whatever reason that was my reaction. So
and you can have separate pages for both and hit kind of both of those keywords too.
Right. And then if you do that, residential plumbing, residential septic, when you search on Google, you might end up on that page and not even on the homepage. And so know that target audience. Who do you sell? Where is the bulk of your customers? And who do you want your new customers to be as you're growing? So make sure you're telling that story, because if you're not, you might turn someone off. And it's really important. So it's, websites started as brochures. They were sort of online brochures. They still are that. You can't forget this. A lot of people are not going to engage with your website. They're going to call you. But it still needs to get them to call you. So in this case, in my journey, someone recommended them, my old septic guy. I went, checked out 2 websites, and then I made a phone call because, well, I just knew that the way companies like that go, that their forms usually don't end up getting responded to as quickly.
Yep.
If you have and they were just generic contact forms. So I didn't, there was nothing that made me think that I was going to get an easier response. And so I've had that experience before, that you fill out those forms and you don't hear back. If you call, whoever's in the office will call you back. So I took it back offline very quickly, and it acted as a brochure for me more than anything. But if you're looking to generate leads from your customers through the website, make sure that that. So tell me a little bit about your problem. Tell me a little bit about your property. How, explain, your leak or whatever it is. Now I trust that form a little bit more. I'm more likely to fill it out. Tell them how often you can expect to hear back from them. We'll respond in 24 hours, or we'll get back to you the next business day. Because taking those leads and making them a form is usually better. Now you have that contact information. So I have their phone number, I have their email address, and I can get back to them. Again, I can market to them. I can add them to my email list. That's another way you can gain that future customer. As a plumber, that never ends, that relationship, if you're good. Stuff breaks all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
So you want to be able to remind them about you so that they don't pick another plumber next time. And it's really important. I guess we didn't talk about speed. So speed is another thing we've talked about at length. If your site is slow, if it's not secure, if it gets hacked, if it takes forever to load, if it loads weird again on mobile, these are all ways you can lose customers.
Honestly, I thought this statistic would be higher too. So 40% of customers will wait no more than 3 seconds before abandoning a site.
Only 40%. That is interesting.
I thought it would be more.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think drives me absolutely crazy if I go to a website and it loads so slowly. A lot of times I won't even visit it. I'll just like give up.
Yeah,
and be
it's
like,
it's
okay.
hard. And there, I've gone to sites where like it takes like 10 seconds, and then even once you're in there, it takes a long time. And so, now your brain is telling you not to trust it as much because everything loads. We're very used to that instant gratification. And then it might just be so frustrating. You're like, you know what? I don't have time for this. Or you might say, I'll do it later. And then later you forget who you started with and find somebody else. So really important to do speed. Was there a stat we had on conversions as well for speed?
Oh, yes. So even just a 1 second delay will reduce conversions by 4.42% each second.
Okay. So if you're looking to convert, if you're looking to sell something, or if you're looking to get a lead,
make sales.
if you're looking to make any kind of sale, faster is better. I mean, it can't be, if you're going to have nice photos and widgets and stuff, things take a little bit of time, but you have to do your best to make that site as fast as possible. Sometimes have a little bit less on your homepage. I'm actually doing that on our homepage. I've been removing stuff to try to speed up our site because I get excited. I add a bunch of stuff and then I check it and I'm like, oh, that's pretty slow. And so I'll do things to make it faster. And it's okay. You can experiment too. And keep it fresh. Every couple of months I refresh our site a little bit when it just annoys me and it's time. And so if you're working with another company, kind of have a thing on your calendar every 4, 6, 8 months and reach out and say like, hey, I want to add this new thing. We have this new photo from this event. Let's add that. People, if they're coming to your site, maybe they checked it out and then they haven't pulled the trigger yet. And then they come back and they see something new. Now they're like, oh, this is fresh. They're like paying attention. They're an active company. Again, that's a trust signal in a way. So it's important.
And if you're selling products and things like that, you need to make it easily accessible for them to be able to find what they're looking for as well.
Right. Navigation is a big part of this too. We didn't talk about that. So once I'm there, can I find what I want? So if you're on Skyline's site, can I find out stuff about website design? Can I find out stuff about social media? If I can't find that, that's what I was looking for, and I ended up there from a Google search, well, then you lost that client anyways. So make sure very clear navigation, hot points on, jump off points on your homepage. So like, depending on where you want to send them, the main categories, make sure that there's buttons and that there's pictures and text about those things a little bit. And then you bring them to the bigger page later, which is important. And did we cover it all? I think we did.
I think so.
Awesome.
I think we mostly went through everything.
But anyways, this is sort of a quick overview of it, but the long and short of it is, if your website is old and if it's slow, if it doesn't have trust factors, you're losing clients for sure.
And it might cost money, but it could also make you more sales and more conversions.
It will, because especially in certain markets, and a lot of the service area markets are notorious for this, you might be the only one in your area that has a nice website. This is going to change over time, but if you're the one with the nice website, you can charge more.
And look at your competition too, because if you see that all of your competition also has crappy websites, then you should definitely update yours, because it will 100% bring in more people.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, be first. When someone's checking out 3 websites, be the one that stands out as being cool and modern and new. Because if you're just one of the ones that are lousy, then you're just one of the ones that are lousy. And so then they'll pick based on something else. But if you're the one that stands out as being the newest one, the best on your phone, the fastest to load, makes it a really easy decision for them to make. And so do that.
And get some feedback too. Show your website to a couple of people and ask them what you could do to improve your website, because I guarantee if you were to show it to, 5 people, you'd probably get some really good feedback.
Yeah. And do it often. And again, do it often. Don't do a site and sit on it for 10 years. Build it, evolve it. Everybody has a camera in their pocket. If you go to a really unique electrical job, because it's a really, really old system and you're updating it to a really, really new system, take a before and after. Doesn't have to be the most, you don't have to hire a professional photographer. Showcase that on your website. Wow, they can take this to this. That's amazing. So you have that out. And then you can post it on social media too. So, a lot of these, almost all of this advice, except for maybe the speed part, because that's kind of out of your control, but all applies to social media too. The trust, the pricing. If you can share those things and they see it there, they'll also be more likely to pick you over somebody else, because that's what it comes down to. Marketing is picking you over somebody else, so you have to stand out. So do things differently to stand out and showcase that you're the best.
Definitely.
Okay, awesome. So we've been scattered in how we've been delivering this podcast over the summer, but we're trying to be better at that. So we're recording this on the last day of August. Hopefully it comes out in September. We've done some of these that have taken more than a month to release. So if you're listening to all of these, thank you so much for doing that. And if some of the dates that we were saying don't make sense, that's because we released them at a time that didn't make as much sense, because it took us longer to release them. But we're going to try to release them within, our recording schedule is kind of all over the place, but we're going to try to release them at least within a week or two of recording it. So this will hopefully come out in September. If you're hearing this in October, I'm sorry. And something came up, but we're still playing around with this and enjoying it and testing out some new things. We're having great experience on YouTube. I know this is a podcast, but don't forget that you can watch this on YouTube too. And you can see us, and we're, getting more pickup and more exposure on YouTube right now. So we're kind of recording with that in mind, but we're still hoping to grow the actual audio podcast as well too. So
keep listening,
subscribe,
or watch.
And if you got advice for us or thoughts or things you want us to talk about, let us know, and we'll try to do that. So have a great week, and hopefully we see you next week.
Yeah, see you guys in the next one.
Thanks so much. Bye.